Got on my leather jacket Thriller. The show ain't nothing Miller. Man, I'm a lady killer. If I want her, I'm a stealer. I promise I can make her fly away like caterpillars. So if you don't know by now, then you should probably get familiar.
Hey everybody, welcome to Friday's edition of Ask the Expert. I'm Leticia Remauro, and I'm joined by my new co-host, Obi-Wan Kenobi. How are you, Mr. Kenobi?
Hey, Leticia, how you doing?
And how are things with the Force? Is it good? Is it what's your prediction?
There's a serious disruption in the Force.
There's a serious disruption in the Force, and we're going to learn more about that disruption right now with our special guest, political consultant and political strategist, Joseph Kovac. Joe, thank you for joining us today.
Hi, Leticia. Thank you for having me. And George, may the Force be with you.
And also with you, Joe.
And may that force be a conservative force. And we're here today and we're going to talk about the countdown to the election. Guys, did you know we're having a presidential election this year?
I kind of heard about
that. Yeah. The news is a little lopsided, but it's actually out there. So I'm here to tell you that there's an election on Tuesday, and it's to decide the presidency of the United States. The unfortunate thing is that the news channels only want to tell you certain things. So if you want to know really what's going on, you're going to have to scrounge around, and you're going to have to read papers other than our American news media. And for God's sakes, don't look for any information on Twitter, because they won't give you it. Well, they will, but the information they're going to give you is all for another political candidate, and is all for Biden. And frankly, I think that they should be disclosing this as an in-kind contribution to Vice President Biden, because what's been kept from us is amazing. George, I know you saw the interview on Big Tech. So what do you think is going on here?
Listen, I mean, I don't know what happened where corporations have felt emboldened enough to not apply the rules evenly, right? Until the last, I don't know, before even Trump started going into office, they were preparing for this. So it's not a surprise. And there's a lot of things that you hear them say that definitely, Trump could be questionable. Yeah, all right, maybe that's not, right. But as Ted Cruz said on the floor, nobody elected you, Jack Dorsey. You weren't elected. You don't get to be a platform and act like a publisher and enjoy the protections of a platform with the power of a publisher. Because we can sue the New York Times. We can sue the Daily News. We can't sue you because of Section 230. So enjoy that while it lasts, because this current Supreme Court makeup is made up of people that are going to vote the Constitution. And if this comes to the Supreme Court, they will uphold this. And they'll lose Section 230, and they'll start getting treated like a newspaper, which would mean what? That comments are now part of the game. Why do you think the newspapers won't get rid of the comment section? Remember the advance?
Yeah.
Gone. Because there's liable to be had for publishers there, but not for platforms. So, it's just got to be fair. And I'm sorry, I'll stop after this. They didn't apply the rule evenly. So evenly would have been, okay, well, I'm not going to publish this story because, as they claim, there was hacked material, right? That was one of their claims, that there was hacked material, so I can't put it out. And I know that all the Republicans have heard this a million times, but Trump's tax returns, there's no way to legally obtain a tax return.
That's right.
How do you legally obtain a tax return? You can't.
Right. Unless the person gives them to you.
So that hasn't happened. So that's clearly hacked material.
Yeah.
Russian Steele dossier, hacked material. Why suddenly is it time to apply this policy? And he even went so far, this sycophant, I'm sorry, he's a sycophant, went so far as to basically tell, Ted Cruz, oh, but the New York Post can delete their original post now and repost it, and they would be unbanned. But what people don't understand in that sentence is that the original post is the virality. That's where all the attention went. Mm-hmm. So unfortunately, I don't think it matters in this case because it got so much attention from being banned, and it probably outweighed that. But it's a principle of a thing. They're saying to delete a post. Why should they delete a post? Twitter, just turn it back on. If you're going to let them repost it, what's wrong with the original post?
Well, they can't post anything anyway because they're shut out since October 14th. Not one post has been allowed for the New York.
If they deleted the original post.
Yeah, well, it's crazy. So Joe, so you've been around politics when we did things with papers and pencils and the advent of computers, and now we're in the advent of Facebook and social media and Twitter and Instagram and TikTok. So how do you see things playing out on the national front? I mean, we're hearing all these polls telling us that the President Trump is far behind and that he has no chance of turning this around. What's your perception?
Well, I think either way, the election is going to be close. I feel that President Trump is going to win on Tuesday. I think that the polls are wrong once again. And there are many Trump supporters that, for whatever reason, do not come out and say that they're going to vote for President Trump. They're either going to say that they're undecided, or they'll even say that they're voting for Biden, because a lot of them are scared about retribution. Look at properties that have Trump signs, where signs are stolen. That's happened everywhere, even here on Staten Island, but it's happened throughout the country. And I think that they are undercounting the Trump support out there. There is a tremendous amount of support for President Trump, and they really are the silent majority. And the polls were totally wrong in 2016, and the polls are wrong now.
So I'm sorry. Keep going, Joe. I'm sorry. I just got it.
And then if you take a look at the state of Florida, right? The polls show that President Biden is still winning, right? But if you take a look at the Republican Latino turnout vote for early voting, as opposed to the Democratic Latino vote for early voting, Republicans are exceeding Democrats. Now, Republicans traditionally, even in states that have early voting and absentee voting before COVID, Republican votes come out the day of the election. Frank Luntz did polls and surveys and focus groups that said that 2/3 of President Trump's supporters are not doing early voting, that they're coming out on election day. So I think, based upon the numbers and based upon President Trump's second debate performance, he is going to exceed all expectations. And I think that he is going to win.
So if somebody, if a voter is looking at the polls, looking at the news, let's say that I'm a voter who watches CNN or ABC News local or any of those, what would you tell them to look for to prove your statements? In other words, the polls are telling them that we're going to lose. The news is reporting it. What would you tell them to look at to support your statement that you think he's going to win? I mean, other than the polls.
Okay. Besides the polls, what you have to take a look at the economy. Take a look at Wall Street. Take a look at the numbers that were released yesterday. It was the greatest numbers ever released for GDP, in the history. So the economy is bouncing back. If we weren't shut down because of COVID, this would be a no-brainer. Trump in a landslide. And everyone acknowledges that. And then in addition to that, they're smart enough to see the rioting that's happening in Philadelphia, what happened in Brooklyn, setting police cars on fire, This is not stuff that sits well with a majority of Americans. There's a difference between protesting something that you believe in, and then there's a difference between committing acts that are criminal in nature. Burning a police car, whether or not a police officer is in there or not, is a crime.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You can't do that. Looting stores and taking a hand truck to get a washing machine or a dishwasher or TVs or pairs of Jordans from Foot Locker is not protesting.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's wrong, and they should be fully prosecuted.
If you don't like the law, change the law, but it must be applied evenly, right?
Well, one of the things that I would tell voters or to look at is you take a look at what he's doing on television at his rallies. And you're not going to see that on your local news channels. So look at OAN, look at Fox, who covers most of the rallies. Look at how many people he's drawing in every state to his rallies. We're not talking 5,000. We're not talking 10,000. We're talking 20, 30, 40,000 people showing up at rallies all across the country. So that is an indicator, right? If people are not voting with you, they will not wait online for hours to attend your rallies. Other things to look at is what Joe talked about before: voter turnout. I mean, the Republicans are outpacing the Democrats in voter turnout, even in the blue cities and the blue districts, and that's an important indicator as well as to what's happening. The switch suddenly from the Latino community to be a huge supporter of Donald Trump, and now what we're seeing is more and more black rappers coming over to Donald Trump's side.
Well, I think it's because President Trump and his campaign really have made overtures to communities that never felt welcomed by the Republican Party in the past. And when you take a look at the Latino turnout, I think that the president that had the best support from the Latino community was President George W. Bush. And he did an excellent job with that. And it's not just talking in Spanish, like how President Trump did, or like how Mayor Bloomberg tried to do. And he botched that up tremendously. I think it's about policy. I think that it's about, reopening the government. It's about having a difference in how to approach making their lives better. And I think that if you were an undecided voter looking at CNN or MSNBC or ABC or CBS or anything besides Fox, and you see the riots and you see the looting and you see what's happening, right? All that negativity really takes away from their message. And it goes back to the president's message of law and order. And why hasn't the Biden and Harris ticket come out more strongly against that? There were riots throughout the Democratic convention. They never said anything until they started seeing poll numbers, especially in suburban districts and especially amongst college-educated white women that President Trump had a problem with in 2016, turning against Biden. Now, if you take a look at it, if they had those riots back then, right, and then Biden said to stop, so then the coordination between the riots and the Biden campaign disappeared, and then another tragic event happened, several days ago in Philadelphia. But to see those riots happen again, I think that it hurts the way that the Democrats rule. If you look at Democratic city after Democratic city where protests happen, they get out of control, and people don't want that.
People, law and order is the number one issue in the country, and people feel unsafe. And so joining us today, Joe, just so that you know, is my mom, Josephine Nastasi, who has taken her place as the number one fan for the show. Hi, Mom. She says happy Friday to everybody.
Hi,
And
Mom.
And our second number one fan is Lucille Chavone. Lucille, George, Lucille says she so agrees with you, and she doesn't miss the Staten Island advance. And that was when we were talking about big tech and actually censoring news. She said that they won't give her a story unless she pays online. And she also said, George, there are no cops to stop washing machines from being wheeled out in these riots in Philadelphia right now. We are joined by Mark Deadeyes, and he says, I wonder too if the record of new gun owners could be an indication of Trump's strength. I am sure there are Biden voters, but as former Democrat, I can tell you most young Democrats don't own guns. Yeah, I think you're right about that, Mark.
Sure.
And we're joined by Pam Leone, and Pam is a producer and a podcast producer and also a documentary producer, and she's done some great films. Hi, Pam. Thank you for joining us today. For everybody else, please like and share this post. Make sure that you bring others onto your watch party. Joe, I'm gonna do what I want you to do is I want you to talk a little bit with George about the Senate races around the country. I'm going to have to just pull out for just a minute because guess what? My battery is going to die. So I need to just go plug in. So I'll pull out and you and George have that conversation about the Senate. Okay.
Sure. Well, George, as you know, the Republicans hold a slight edge and a three-seat advantage in the U.S. Senate. I think that the Republicans are going to maintain control of the Senate as long as President Trump wins Arizona as well as North Carolina, which I believe that he will. I feel that our biggest potential of seats to lose will be Colorado and Maine with Senator Gardner and Senator Collins. But I also feel that we're going to pick up the seat in Alabama from Doug Jones, flipping that seat. And then according to the list that I have, I think that we're going to keep both Georgia Senate seats, even though that it may be close. We're definitely going to do that. We're going to keep Montana, South Carolina, Kansas, Texas, Kentucky. I think that Michigan is closer than people expect. I think that John James is an excellent candidate, and he's cutting into Senator Peters, who really has failed miserably in Michigan. And I think that Arizona is also a toss-up between Senator McSally and Mark Kelly. And I think that the president's turnout really is going to depend upon those two Senate seats. And when you take a look at it, Republicans are being outspent than Democrats when you factor in the soft money and the super PAC money. But I think that people understand the issues and what's at stake here. And with Senator Schumer saying that when Democrats take over the Senate, Republicans cease all rights to dictate how things are, it was Harry Reid that started with the elimination of the filibuster for federal district court judges. It's not that we did anything wrong or we did anything illegal or improper. I'll tell you this much: if Harry Reid was the majority leader instead of Mitch McConnell when Justice Garland was nominated by President Obama, he would be sitting on the Supreme Court now. The only reason why he wasn't appointed was that the Republicans controlled the Senate. And if the Democrats controlled the Senate, they would have done it. So it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's historically the way it's been happening, the way it happens. I think there may be two exceptions. So where it was cross-party like that, and the candidate got through. I know the country would love to be all altruistic about this, but let's face it, that's exactly what it's designed to do. The checks and balances are set up in such a way that one party can't take over. That's why they say packing the court. I laugh because, okay, you win this one, you pack the court. We win the next one, we pack the court. We got Supreme Court members because it'll never end.
A majority of Americans are against packing the court, regardless of party, unless if you're an extremist. And the fact of the matter is that there's a difference between changing the system that we have as opposed to using situations to your advantage. Again, as I stated, if when President Obama was president and he nominated Justice Garland, if the Democrats were in control of the U.S. Senate, he would have been confirmed to the Supreme Court. And, you know what I mean, for the Democrats to be upset that we're replacing Ginsburg, who was a liberal, then she should have retired when Barack Obama was president.
They had the opportunity there with Ginsburg to actually make things go their way, and they could have done that by asking her to step down, especially when they knew her health was failing, and getting her in there. And unfortunately, they did. Look, politics is a game. They didn't play their cards correctly that way. And so now you have a situation where Donald Trump has been filling Supreme Court nominations at a rapid rate, filling federal judicial seats at a rapid rate. And that's the right of the president to do. And people need to understand, that's what's going to happen when you elect a president.
They remember what happened when McConnell, when the Democratic nominee didn't get a hearing because he wasn't going to get confirmed.
Right.
Because it was the opposing party Senate. They weren't going to confirm him. So why waste the country's time and money? To me,
well, I was one of those, though, that believed that President Obama should have nominated and that the Senate should have had the hearing. And the Senate, that's their job. Either hold it or don't hold it. That's up to you. But that's their job to do it. Now, if they didn't want to confirm, they didn't have to confirm. But they were playing politics. But that's the game that they're in. Yeah. So I have an interesting question here. Samuel Suarez says the Chancellor of Germany is shutting down the country and going to pay businesses 75% of their income. Why can't our administration do the same? So, who wants to take that question?
Oh, I can take that. It's a simple matter of economics, right? We can't just print money and give out money to businesses and to people that are losing income, right? It's not made up paper. It comes with attachments. We have debt, right? And I don't see how that would ever work in a country the size of the US with the economy that we have. And Germany, I think, is doing that for other reasons where they failed their citizens on things that they have done that they should not have done. You know what I mean? Especially letting in all of those refugees and how the country became chaotic and stuff. I understand how Europe is working. My father was born in Europe. He grew up in communism. He grew up in a communist country. And then he came here. And I just think that the way that Europe is operating between the shutdowns and the economy and everything is just destroying their quality of life. Look at what happened to Greece.
Yeah.
So in Greek, and they'll tell you, look out, what's coming is not good.
Yeah, my answer, Sam, is that is the first step to socialism. That's the first step to fascism. That's the first step to a nation or the national government owning business. First of all, let's all understand that this pandemic, we have now, the death rates have dropped. Yes, more people do now have COVID than they had before, but that's what we know. We now know more about how many people have COVID because testing is so now prevalent. When it first came on board, we weren't able to test as many people. And so we did what we could to protect our at-risk community and to test the people that, we thought we should test. Now we're testing everybody on demand. So of course you're going to have more cases, but you also have more asymptomatic cases than ever before. And we're learning that products like Remdesivir and just a Z-Back and over-the-counter stuff like zinc and lemon juice and so many others can actually, cure you or and help you live. So the cases of deaths are going down, the cases of COVID is going up. So now becomes the question of, should we be shutting down our economy because we have this disease amongst us? There's two different minds of it, and I for one believe that if you are fearful of the disease, then you should by all means protect yourself and stay in. But to have the government shut us down and then pay 75% of our income for businesses, to me, is the first step towards socialism or fascism, where you have a nationalized product and your all the businesses are owned by the nation. Look at what happened to Cuba. Look at what happened to Venezuela. Look at what happened. I mean, we could go on and on and on. Look at communist China. This is not where we want to live, Samuel.
And Leticia, you can even look at the U.S. Whenever the federal government has tried to dictate policy from a national level, right? Look at Common Core with the education department. It was a disaster because you cannot compare how students learn and how parents are in urban cities like New York City, LA, Chicago, right? Compared to someone that lives on a farm in Iowa or Nebraska. No one's better than each other, but you can't have the same standards because you don't have the same facets in play. So that's why whenever you nationalize anything in the United States, it never works.
And our states are sovereign.
We established the states on this. That was the agreement that everyone agreed to in order to prevent New Yorkers from affecting the way people in Ohio like to live. That's that simple.
And that's why the states are sovereign. Hold on a second. Our next guest is texting me. So our states are sovereign, and that's why our governors have so much power. And I get a chuckle out of people saying that President Trump didn't do the right thing with COVID, because the fact is every state was able to do what it wanted to do. The CDC put out guidelines, and everybody made decisions based on that. All of the governors. The president did get involved in places that he could, where with manufacturing, PPE and things like that, and distributing things and stopping the bidding wars against each other for the states for the PPE, and that was the proper thing to do. But at the end of the day, let's all remember that every governor said, "Hey, you can't tell me what to do. You can't tell me to shut down or not," and they were right. He couldn't, and he admitted it. So we need to keep things sovereign. Yeah. So George, I'm going to let you ask the next question of Joe, because I have to get something over to our next guest.
Well, I'm glad you threw that at me. I want to know. I would like to know, Joe. Did you see the Amy Coney Barry hearings? Did my mic get better? I know I'm having trouble with my mic. Can you hear me?
I'm not hearing you as well, George, or Obi-Wan.
You know what? I can't use the force to fix this either. I'm not sure what's going on. I'll try and speak up a little bit.
Okay.
I was asking you about the confirmation of Amy Coney Barry.
Well, I think that the Democrats were dead set against her at all. I think that it's a disgrace that also as a practicing Catholic that she was attacked on her faith. No other religion, if she was Jewish or Muslim, I don't believe that she would have been attacked like how she was being attacked for her Christian faith. I think that as the hearings went on, a majority of Americans supported her because of how she handled herself. I think she handled herself very well. It didn't matter who the Republicans nominated. The Democrats were going to try to attack her. I think that she is a well-qualified jurist. I think that she is someone that has an impeccable reputation and impeccable credentials, and I am very excited that she was appointed to the Supreme Court. And I think that that's something that carried over into Trump rallies as well as the U.S. Senate elections.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we were joined by here he is. John, can you hear us? Oh, wait. All right. I think he's working things out. Our next guest is about to join us. Donna Fagan signed on and said, woohoo, Yahoo, Joe Kovac.
All right.
Also, I wanted to acknowledge that Lewis Thomas has joined us as well. Okay, I am going to see if I can bring in John Tabacco so that he can join us for the first couple of minutes of the next segment. Hey, John, are you with us? Oh, wait, we got him muted.
I think he's still working it out.
He's still working it out. Okay, all right. We'll try it out in a minute. Okay,
This is our first studio to studio.
This is our first studio to studio. Yeah, I guess he's working that out.
And Leticia, I also feel that we're going to pick up some House seats as well, because in 2018, some of the seats that we lost, especially like New York 11 with Max Rose, I think that we're going to pick up that seat. I think that Nicole, I know the polls show her ahead by a couple of points. I think that she's going to win, and her margin of victory, I think, is going to be much larger than that, simply because of how Max Rose has backtracked on a lot of positions, from impeaching the president to supporting with Antifa and defending the police and coming out against the police, and siding with Representative Omar, who would love nothing more than the total destruction of Israel. And I don't know how you cannot denounce that.
Well, I think that the killer for Max Rose is that Bill de Blasio endorsed him. And that one, I mean, even worse than Trump, even worse than the marching to defund the police and his flip-flopping all over the place, is the fact that Bill de Blasio endorsed him, and that's Bill de Blasio's choice for Congress, and he'd much rather see Max Rose in Congress than Nicole Malliotakis. And for Staten Island and Brooklynites, South Brooklyners, that says a mouthful. So here's the really interesting thing that I learned today, and I think the Post is going to report on it, the New York Post. So Staten Island, the county of Richmond, has the highest voter turnout in early voting than any other county in all of New York. And that says something. And what I love about that is that, the way Staten Island goes is usually the way the country goes. And if that's the case, we all know that Staten Island's going for Trump. So that is a real indicator for me about what's going to happen on Tuesday. So I'm excited about it, and I know that we've had a lot of immigrants, Russians, Cubans, Chinese, have been coming out to vote, and they stopped by the headquarters. And you know what they told me? They told me that in the past few months, with Twitter and Facebook and the newspapers not reporting the way they were, that they feel like they're back in communist Russia. And they are so nervous, or communist China, or Cuba. They are so nervous about losing their freedoms, and it's really tragic. So I see that John Tabacco is ready. It looks like he's all ready to go. We're going to bring him on air.
I think I'm ready.
There you go. Hi, John.
You're on
with George.
Hey, John.
Or
I
today,
didn't know
Obi-Wan
I didn't know
Kenobi.
Obi-Wan was going to be with us today, but
So, John, and I'm sure you know Joe Kovac, longtime
of
political
course,
strategist.
Joey's a liquid lunch regular. We got to get him back.
Yeah,
Hey,
great.
it'll be my pleasure, John. We got to do that.
So, John, we were just talking about New York 11. We were just talking about the fact that Staten Island has so far turned out in early voting at 3.5% higher than any other county in New York State. And we're at 23.5%. The highest in the state is 18. So, John, what do you think that means? What could our voters, our listeners from around the country, what should they take away from the fact that Staten Island is voting in such outrageous numbers?
Well, Leticia, I talk about Staten Island all the time on Liquid Lunch. I'm proud of Staten Island. I'm a proud Staten Island. I feel like we get a bum rap sometimes. People think we're just a bunch of guineas and guidos from this little place. And there's really some great humans. There's great people. And there's actually a great melting pot of America on Staten Island that people don't realize. But I broke down the numbers the other day to explain to people why Staten Island is the heartbeat of America. So stick with me for my Wall Street numbers here, but we all know 82% of the Republicans on Staten Island voted for Donald Trump in the Republican primary, making Staten Island ground zero, #1 county in the entire country for Donald Trump, right? We're all on board with that.
Agree.
80% of Staten Island voted for Donald Trump, Republicans. 57% of Staten Island voted for Trump in the general election. So only if you take the voter registration, more Democrats than Republicans, about 32% or 80% of Republicans equaled about 32% of the vote. So where did Trump get? He got 57% of the vote. Where did he get that other 24% of the vote? It was from Democrats. It was from Kennedy Democrats. It was from Reagan Democrats. So it shows that if you really dig into the numbers, almost half the people on Staten Island voted for Trump were from both parties. 25% of Democrats in Staten Island voted for Donald Trump. Now it shows how discerning Staten Islanders are too when it comes to elections, because with Donald Trump winning 57%, Max Rose won in 18 as a congressman on the other party. So it shows that these Democrats are not all crazy Trump supporters, and the Republicans are very, very strongly. So it's like we're the most purple borough, if you ask me. And I think Donald Trump, if you notice, where he's going for his rallies are in like between Michigan, Wisconsin, and Minnesota. The places he's going are all border towns. So they're counties that are right on the border to the next state, right? They're right there on the border. So he's drawing. And the counties that he's visiting are all counties that Hillary Clinton won, that county, right? But they have contiguous counties that he won. So he's actually trying to draw out those Staten Island Democrats, those moderates, and say, hey, you guys went for Hillary last time, but give me another look. And I think the turnout in Staten Island, I talked to Brendan Lantry yesterday. He told me that we are having killer numbers on the South Shore.
Killer numbers on the South
Shore. The registration numbers.
Leticia, you know, as
first time
chair,
ever we have seen the South Shore. Well, I'm not going to say ever, but the first time in a long time we've seen the South Shore turn out, because the South Shore generally they go home and they forget to vote.
Now,
it hasn't turned out like this since the Rudy Giuliani election of 1993 to get rid of Dinkins.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, Georgie, I know you tune into Liquid Lunch every so often.
A lot.
Joey's been on. Leticia's been on. I don't know how you guys do it here, but on Friday afternoon,
for it.
I'm keeping the Liquid Lunch going, if you know what I'm saying.
Saluti.
Yeah, go for it. All right, so let me ask this question of you, John, because I asked it of Joe earlier, and I'd like to get your perspective on it. So if I am average New York City voter, and I'm a Republican, or I lean that way. Like, by the way, Jody Wasserman, who joined us, Jody Wasserman said that she's a crossover voter, and for me, Jody is the most important voter that we could have, because this is a woman that discerns, who she wants representing her. So if we're a crossover voter like Jody Wasserman, and we're just watching, let's say, NBC local news, is all we're hearing is that we have polls that are telling us that Donald Trump can't possibly win this election. He's so far gone. He should just, resign right now. John Tabacco, what would you say voters should look at as telltale signs that the polls are wrong yet again?
Well, the first thing I would say is I was the football coach at Monsignor Farrell High School. And when I ran a play and it worked, I would run it again. And if it worked again, I would run it again until the other team figured out how to stop that play. Then I'd go to my next play. I pulled out the Time magazine for October of 2016. And the headline on Time magazine, now everyone respects Time magazine, right? I for the most part, that's like a tried and true brand.
Oh no! Hey, something happens.
So when Hillary,
all right, start that again. Tried and true. Oh no, here he goes again.
I don't hear you.
We can't hear you. We can't hear you. He was just going to make a point. It was fantastic. Now, log out, log back in. Okay. He was just going to make a point. While I'm waiting.
It was the martini's fault.
I'm right, the martini. All right. Jamie Ann wants to know, what is everyone's opinion on the Hunter Biden and Joe Biden overseas affair? All right, so I'll let you talk about it a little, Joe.
I think that it's really a disgrace how journalists are no longer journalists in this country, because if Walter Cronkite was alive, he would have been all over that story. Peter Jennings, when he was at ABC News, they all would have reported the story because it's something to report. It's not Russia and disinformation. It's not a Russia hoax. It's none of that. What it is a documentation that shows that Joe Biden's family has cashed in on the Biden family name. And it's no different than Hillary Clinton when she was Secretary of State selling that State Department office for the Clinton Foundation. How do you leave the White House broke, right? And Bill Clinton lost his law license because he lied under oath, right? And then all of a sudden you're worth hundreds of millions of dollars. How do you do that? If you're in Congress, you make $200,000 a year, $250 a year. How can you be worth millions upon millions of dollars if you're not doing something illegal?
He made $16 million in the last year. And how do you do that if you're 47 years in government? If listen, I'm not. Trump is in 4 years. He's made his money elsewhere. How did Joe make his money?
Well, I just want to, we have John back, but I want to give now an opposing someone else's comment. Lewis Thomas says, Hunter Biden has nothing to do with the running of America. And I agree. He may have nothing to do with the running of America, but he was playing point man for his dad, and that was very, very obvious. John, when you went down, we had a question from Jamie Ann, who asked what we thought about the Hunter Biden, the Biden family scandals. And so, do you want to weigh in on that, John?
Yeah. Well, my thoughts are, I think it's been brought clearly into focus to the American public that there's two sets of justice systems here in America. We find out today, 4 days before an election, that Hunter Biden's been under investigation since 2019 for money laundering. Little thing they probably should have told us about the presidential candidate's son. So we know people like us, freedom and liberty loving folks, we're not living in the society that we were brought up in, because there's two sets of justice. There's two sets of rules, it seems like, effectively these days. And I think, on the Hunter stuff, the Silicon Valley cartel, the new mafia, Silicon Valley, they've also come into clear focus and told everybody in America, while there's two sets of justice, your free speech is also under attack, because we enjoy all these liberties of not being sued and we have these protections. And at the same time, we're going to put our finger on the scale and tell you what you need to know. So I think, I've been saying it all along, Leticia. They keep telling us suburban moms, suburban women hate Trump. They keep telling us this. It's like they're programming our minds to believe this, right? Every woman I talk to, or any woman I know with kids and a family, is like, I'm for Trump. I hate him, but I'm for him. And I've been saying, like, Trump's closing argument to me, for those people that are on the fence, undecided, moderate, those suburban women who may get turned off to his blustering sometimes. I've been saying, asking the president to please listen to me once, jokingly, but to me, the closing argument is, I'm going to keep more money in your pocket. Okay. I'm going to keep cops on the street. I'm going to keep you safe. You're going to have more money. You're going to be safe. We're going to end the lockdowns, and we're going to put your kids back in school. And I think if suburban moms, everyone I'm talking to is like, I'll tell you, my daughter's aunt, she's a 40-year-old woman, hardworking chick, and, on point. She's a union type person. She would typically vote for Joe Biden. And my daughter texted me during the debate and said, Aunt so-and-so just said she's voting for Trump because Biden said he's going to keep us locked down. I can't be locked down anymore. I think that's a big thing that people are realizing, that this guy's going to take away the police. He's going to do bail reform. We're going to do Green New Deal. And we're screwed here. I think it's happening.
I just want to go back to make a point. So we talked about Hunter Biden, and Lewis Thomas said, well, what does he have to do with running the government? And then his next comment is, Trump's children has stolen from children's charities. Now, how do you know that? How do you know that, Lewis? How you know that, or you think you know that, because the news reported that to you.
You want to know why? I'll tell you why, right? President Donald Trump's, this is from factcheck.org, liberal cesspool. President Donald Trump's namesake charitable foundation agreed to cease operation. They call this story fake, Lewis. President Donald Trump's namesake charitable foundation agreed to cease operations in late 2018 as part of an agreement with New York Attorney General, who alleged that the nonprofit organization was improperly leveraged to further Trump's businesses and political interests. A November court order resolved the lawsuit. Then Trump ultimately paid a total of $2 million in damages to 8 charities, which also received equal portions of the foundation's remaining $1.8 million. So there was no theft by his children in charities. That's the story. Even
but it was reported. But that's what I'm saying. The difference is that the Trump family stories, whether it was a college or whether it was, any of these stories, they were all reported by mainstream media. But the Biden story, the Biden family story, was not reported by mainstream media. It was only reported by Tucker Carlson and Fox and no one else. And that goes back to our original conversation about about that we're absolutely biased in the media. George, somebody is making a lot of noise in the background, a microphone or something making a lot of noise in the background. I don't know if you hear it. So guys, John, Joe, who wants to take that Lewis's comments a question?
Well, I think that there are no basis to those allegations. Nothing has been shown, or any facts or any documentation to show that. But it goes to a larger point that I hope that the Republican Party will address, when President Trump gets reelected on Tuesday, as well as us maintaining control of the U.S. Senate, that we need to remove the protections from these social media companies. They need to have responsibility of what's put up on their sites, because you cannot pick and choose what gets censored and what doesn't. And quite honestly, if the Republicans get together with the Libertarians and with the progressives, they're all against how companies like Google and Facebook and Instagram and Twitter act, and they really need to either disband those companies or put things in place that will hold them responsible.
I agree. So, John, do you want to weigh in on this? I mean, what do you think we need to do with big tech here?
No, I think, Elizabeth Warren is not on the top of my friends list in anything, but she was talking about breaking up these big monsters. And I happen to agree with her on one thing here. Capitalism does not flourish where monopolies exist. And it's been shown right here when one of the oldest newspapers in America, the New York Post, which, from time to time, they'll go with a salacious headline, but it's a well-known, respected news source. And when their Twitter account is locked for 13 days, and the director of Border and Customs Patrol has his account locked for days because he's talking about a positive development, like, building some more wall. We're in a place right now where they need to be broken up, or at least, people don't understand this. There's this thing, this 230, this 203 exemption, where they're having, for running an open platform, they're eliminated from liability from what people write on their platform. So they're not a publisher like a newspaper. They're not subject to slander and libel for stuff on their platform. So they have no liability. The reason you get no liability is to be an open platform. So what I think is Donald Trump wins before New Year's, they're going to lose that exemption, or they're going to start playing the game a whole different way.
You know what I don't understand? I don't understand why he just doesn't leave Twitter. Trump, I mean, in honesty, and I believe everything George Passariello tells me because I know he's brilliant. And he told me prior to in 2014 that Twitter was on its way out and it was dead, and that to don't buy stock in it because it was going out the door. And then enter Donald Trump's run for president and his tweeting campaign, and all of a sudden the man gives Twitter a resurrection. Now we have basically Twitter censoring him, and he's the one that's making, that's kept them alive.
No
if
doubt.
I was him, I'd move to a new platform. I
Yeah.
mean, we have Parler, we have
Well,
so many other platforms.
Can I give you my capitalist spin on that? And
Yes,
Donald
please.
Trump, he knows the art of the deal as good as anyone. He's not going to go to another platform until he gets out of the White House. And I can tell you that because he knows whether he wins if he don't win on Tuesday, he'll have his own platform up by January 20th. But if he wins on Tuesday, he'll continue to use them to grow his platform. And then the day he's out of office, the next day, whether he teams up with somebody like Newsmax TV or something else, I think either 5 days from now or 4 years from now, Donald Trump will have at least some people that are in his cocoon will have an alternative platform, and he will leave Twitter. But he's not going to start somebody else's business for them without getting a slice of the pie.
Yeah. So Jody Wasserman says Jack Dorsey is a piece of shit. I agree. You would have thought that maybe the man would have had a haircut and a shave before going before Congress.
I feel so bad that we woke him up.
Yeah. It's too bad. All right, so let's talk about local politics a little bit more. So before you joined us, John, Joe said that he believes we might pick some seats up in the Senate, and that also he feels very positive that we're going to pick up House seats as well. Where do you stand on that, John?
Well, look, Leticia, I have been one of the more outspoken advocates to immediately eliminate Minnie Max Rose from the congressional seat he currently sits in. I'm doing everything I can. I'm running commercials and promotions for Nicole every single day on Liquid Lunch. I'm singing her praises everywhere I go. I personally think that we're going to win seats that they weren't expecting. I think they keep talking about how they need 4 seats in the Senate to take back the Senate. You got this guy John James up there in Michigan coming around the outside like a dark horse. I think he's going to win. I think Tillis is going to hold. I think McSally's going to hold. I think we could pick up 1 or 2, or at least keep a net even there. I'm not as optimistic about taking back the House, but like I said, I was a football coach. I grew up on the sports fields, and there's an old saying, any given Sunday, I got an outside chance that with, maybe a fumble, maybe a pick 6, we take 1 to the House, and New York might turn red.
I think that it's certainly going to tee us up to for 2021. Joe Peggy Padavano says, "Hi, Joe. How have you been? It's good to see you."
Hey, Peggy. Thanks.
And she says,
Good to
"Hi
see
to
you
you
too,
too, John." And she says, "What do you think, John? What do you think about Joe Collins?"
Joe Collins. I don't know that race. Joe Collins.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not familiar either. Joe, are you familiar with Joe Collins?
Yeah, I think Joe Collins has a chance of winning. I think it's a little bit more difficult. It's more of an outside chance. John, before you came on, I agree with you about Tillis and McSally in Arizona. I think those 2 states depend upon the turnout for President Trump. And I think that Tillis was helped tremendously with the scandal for his Democratic opponent. I also feel that we're going to win that Michigan seat. We are in the U.S. Senate. I feel that we're also going to win back Alabama. We're probably going to lose Cory Gardner in Colorado, even though that he did an excellent job in the committee hearing against the tech companies. And Susan Collins, that's an iffy because Maine is crazy. We all know that the president's going to win the 2nd congressional district in Maine, as he did in 2016. But Maine itself sometimes is a wild card between, King as governor, as a Democrat, then as an independent in the U.S. Senate, and Susan Collins, and before that, Olympia Snowe and everything. But I think that we're going to hang on, and we're probably not going to retire Nancy Pelosi yet as Speaker, but I feel that there are about 8 to 12 House seats that we can pick up, which will make the Democratic majority only anywhere from 8 to 10. So I think that we can get more things done.
I think we needed to flip 16 seats. I think we needed to hold everything and win 16 to get the House back. I'd like to, put on my rose-colored glasses and hope for that. But look, we got the Supreme Court now. We got the White House, and we keep the Senate. We're in control, and there's not much they can do. And they can't turn this country socialist if we got 2 out of the 3 branches.
So, what do you think, gentlemen? What I'd like to know is, let's make our predictions for election day. And here's what I want to hear. I want to know what do you think? What do you think? Trump or Biden wins, and by how much? And for each of them, what would be the first thing you think they would do when they got in office? So I'll start with John.
Yeah, I think Trump is gonna exceed his electoral college victory from 2016. I think he'll be above. I think he'll be above 306. I think he's going to win Arizona. I think he's going to pick up 2 out of 3 up there. Those northern Midwest states, Michigan, Minnesota, Wisconsin. I think he's going to get 2 out of 3. I think he'll get Pennsylvania. And personally, I think the first thing he'll do when he gets reelected is he will extend the payroll tax cuts indefinitely, because they were only put in place until the end of the year. And I think that's a tax cut he's going to give America for at least 4 more years as soon as he steps into office.
Okay, Joe, I'm going to ask the same question to you. I'm going to mute your mic a little, John. If you want to speak, though, I'll see you going, because I just, okay, got it. Go ahead, Joe.
I agree with John. I think that there are a couple of additional states that Trump may surprise everyone on Tuesday. I think Trump is definitely going to win. He may even pick up New Hampshire, which has gone either Republican or Democrat in years. I also feel that he will extend the tax cuts, and in addition to that, I think he is going to make substantial change in regards to the exemption of the 235 rule for social media companies. And I think that that's going to be one of his signature issues in the second term with a Republican-controlled Senate.
Okay. George, what do you have to say about the situation?
I kind of agree with both Joe and John. I think Trump is going to eke this one out. He's going to have. Is he going to win the popular vote? Possibly this time. I think there's a strong chance it'll be a lot closer. That's for sure. So I'm confident Trump's going to win. I think we're going to gain back. We're going to gain maybe 5 House seats. I am not the prognosticator that these gentlemen are, or you, Leticia, but I can clearly see the way that society is moving. So to me, this is just a number.
You're Obi-Wan. You're Obi-Wan, George. Yeah.
He's the mouth of George you're looking for. Yeah. I also think that we're gonna definitely hold the Senate, and we're gonna see some surprises this year. We have a candidate running upstate New York, and what I see is the moderates rejecting the hardcore liberal Democratic Party. And if that's the case, there's no way we don't gain seats. So which seats? There's a lot of them in question, and these guys have laid out in detail. But we're certainly going to gain some. So that's what I think is going to happen. And I think Nicole beats Max Rose by 5 points.
I think Nicole's 5-6 on beating Max Rose, and I agree. I think that Trump's going over 300, and I think we pick up a couple of seats in the Senate. I want you guys to know that Jody Wasserman, who is a comedian, John Tabacco, wants to come and party with you. So you should think about having her on the show. Oh, wait, now where did Kim go? No, wrong one. Kim Salvo. Kim says, I'm very worried about keeping the peace on Tuesday night. Manhattan can't be taken any more vandalism. What do you guys think about that? How do you think it's going to go on election night? Number one, do you think we're going to know? Number two, do you think we're going to have a peaceful transition?
We're not going to know because of all of the mail-in ballots. So we're not going to know who really has won. We're going to have estimates based upon the exit polling data as well as the profile. What the Trump campaign is doing, they're taking a page out of 2004 with George W. Bush's re-election campaign and micro-targeting certain communities and certain districts. And John's right, where the Trump campaign has been holding rallies at border states, and some of those districts, Hillary won, some of those districts, Trump won, so he wants to up the vote, and I think that there's going to be a continuation of traditional Democratic voters that are going to vote for the Republican candidates this year, as they did in 2016, because the Democratic Party is not the Democratic Party that they're used to. It's been redefined and reshaped by the progressives.
Got it. John, Peggy Patavana says, what about Lindsey Graham? Do we think he's going to win?
I think Lindsey's going to win. I think Lindsey's going to win. He was under attack for a while, but the way they handled the Amy Coney Barrett hearings, the confirmations, I think that put him over the top. I think people, those stayed in the wool Republicans are like, this is our guy. They're going to come out. I think the turnout's going to be good down there in South Carolina for Trump. I feel good about Lindsey.
All right. We have Gina Lopez. Everyone is with us today. I agree, and not just in that, many other cities across the country with the final count today. I got to tell you, fellas, I do think that we have seen a very violent summer, and I think that it's only going to get worse. I think so long as the Democrats are going to turn a blind eye to these riots and call them peaceful protests, that we're going to just have problems. And I think as long as our children are I call them privileged protesters, continue to get done by professors that they should go out and hate their country. We're in for it. If the parents don't come out, take their kids in hand, and I mean 25 and 30-year-old kids, take them in hand, smack them around a little bit, verbally, and maybe even on the behind. I'd say, this country gave you everything, and you now need to respect it. We're in for a rough going in the next 4 years. I do believe Trump wins, and I think that the first order of business for him is going to be to make sure that our schools start teaching our children to respect our country, and I hope that's certainly what it does. So we're having all kinds of sound issues now. So this has been a great show, and I thank you guys for being on. We're going to go because I think everybody's ears are probably starting to hurt them. So Monday, George, we're going to take up the last day before election, and we'll announce our guests on Sunday night. So thank you, John. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you, guys.
So much,
everybody.
Joey, good seeing you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks for coming, guys.
Good seeing